You know, there's nothing that tickles my giblies more than a cheater getting caught. Some kind of trap set by a developer, and they fall right into it. And of course, then they get banned because cheating in an online game is quite bad, and you shouldn't do that. Cheating in a single-player game is whatever. I mean, you can do that if you want. There's nothing wrong with using the Konami code or pulling up your phone in GTA 4 and giving yourself unlimited rocket launchers. That's completely fine. But today we're going to see 20 traps that caught millions of cheaters. Goodness gracious me, that's a lot of cheaters. Gameranx is a fantastic YouTube channel. They just hit 8 million subscribers, which is absolutely amazing, but they have a whole ton of videos about gaming that you're going to want to watch. You probably want to listen to what they have to say about games before you buy them. But anyway, let's take a look to see what happened to the cheaters.
Valve sneaking a dummy code into Dota 2 that can only be read by cheaters. Cheating is a rampant problem in MOBAs, but it looks like Valve came up with a pretty smart way to catch people.
I mean, they have the time. They literally don't even, I was gonna say they don't make games, but that's not true. They're making a new MOBA called Deadlock, the third person one, which I was playing the beta, the alpha for it, and honestly, it's pretty good. Now, I'm not much of a competitive player myself. I was having a lot of fun with
using
it.
Cheat software in Dota 2. Rather than looking for cheaters with the usual methods, Valve got creative. First, they determined how the cheat software worked and found that it would read data from the client that would give the cheater an unfair advantage in the game and allow them to see information that is normally hidden. Using this knowledge, they added some dummy data to the client. Anyone playing the game normally could never access it, but if a player was using a cheat program, then they would, and that's how Valve was able to determine if players were cheating or not.
That is really smart. I was thinking that maybe, okay, my dumb brain was like, oh, you'd see things that you wouldn't normally see. So the dummy data they add like enemies, random enemies that you can only see if you're using the cheating software. So when you smack the enemy, you instantly get banned. Now that would be sick.
It's a pretty ingenious solution to catching certain cheats, even though it only works for stuff that directly interfaces with the Dota 2 client.
Each of the accounts banned to get read from the secret area in the client, giving us extremely high confidence that the ban was well-deserved. 40,000 people getting banned. 40,000 cheaters getting wiped off of Dota 2. I don't know the Dota 2 player base. I assume it's still relatively high. So that's 40,000? That's a lot. That's a lot of accounts. That's a lot of people still
There are
to be
less
just wiping
intrusive
out.
cheats that it can't really catch, but it's still something you love to see. It's not the most exciting trap because for the most part, cheaters don't even know it's happening, but it does seem to be fairly effective, or at least it was back in 2023.
Well, that
At
was
number
sick.
19
That's really
is some
smart.
fake cheats. Not all traps are exclusively made by developers. Sometimes gamers do it themselves. Back in 2020, a YouTuber named Script.
Oh my god, is this anonymous? I'm sorry, are we going to get hacked? Or should we expect them? Are they coming? Oh my days, they have millions and millions of views on their videos, and then they just stopped uploading.
Kid came up with a devious plan. They'd make their own cheat software for CSGO, make a whole website for it, and advertise it on Google so that it'd show up on the top of search results for Counter-Strike cheats.
Oh, that's so smart. Oh, that is so smart. That is brilliant.
Which is actually the kind of thing that got Google in hot water for antitrust stuff. The thing is, this program wasn't the usual wall hacks cheaters would expect. Instead, it was a trap designed to ruin people's games. All sorts of things could happen. It would make it so the would-be cheater couldn't open doors. They'd randomly get flashbangs in the face. Sometimes their gun wouldn't shoot at all. Other times, they'd completely lose control of the character and...
Okay, obviously Valve's gonna hate this kind of stuff. Oh, not Valve. The creator of Counter-Strike is gonna hate this. Is that Valve? It might be, actually. Because it's still a program that influences the game, and I guess it could be used for nefarious purposes, but the fact that it's only doing bad things to the person that tried to cheat. Oh, do you buy it? Did they... Oh, I hope they spent money on this. Oh, I hope they did. That would be so funny. That'd be the icing on the cake.
Away or jump off the map. Funny stuff, honestly. When somebody expects to be able to cheat in a game, and instead, they jump off of the game.
This is incredibly intricate stuff. Just trying to get someone to just throw their weapon outside of the map. I feel like that's a very difficult thing to forcibly program into the game like that. Especially when you're programming into someone else's game,
Didn't stop
right?
there, though. The program made it so Script Kid could remotely record and download the replay data of the affected user.
Okay, yeah, that I feel, okay, this is where it gets dangerous. If you're remotely recording someone else's PC and then downloading to, oh, I mean, it's a virus. It's a virus. At the end of the day, it's a virus, but it's a virus that's attacking the people that deserve to be hit by it.
So the cheaters didn't just ruin their game, they also got exposed for the whole world to see. Honestly, it's an amazing scheme that unfortunately couldn't.
He spent $2,000 on his fake cheat videos. That's incredible. He paid for $2,000 worth of advertising. So this is not like this is a rich person that's doing this. I feel like you wouldn't do this unless you had a ton of time on your hands and a ton of money to do it with. You know what? I have to respect it.
Last, people were pretty quick to get wise to it. But man, what a good prank. And number 18, Call of Duty punishing cheaters by making everyone else disappear. The problem with cheaters in games like Call of Duty is that it's inevitable. The games are extremely popular. There's so many people playing and too many cheat software developers making bank on the backs of cheat-hungry wretches.
Oh, yeah. Cheating was a massive issue in Warzone, I think a few years ago. I remember all those like big creators, like online content creators like Tim the Tap Man was constantly going on about the amount of cheaters that were in the game. It was just a ridiculous amount, which makes sense because, yeah, it's Call of Duty. It does kind of confuse me somewhat. Because I'm like, what are you cheating? What's the point? What are you cheating for? What's going on, man? Also, this may be the ADHD brain that I have, but I just noticed that some of the background figures here, you have numbers, but then you also have like Japanese katakana. Like me is that one here. That means me. And then you have like a backwards he, and then you have like oo and moo and ne. I'm sorry, I just get distracted by this kind of thing every now and then. I wonder if that's supposed to be, that's re. They're just taking icons from Japanese writing styles. What the hell?
Activision gets really serious about combating cheating, like more so
Is it supposed to be like
now.
that?
All they can really rely
guess so.
on are these publicity stunts that are fun to read about, but ultimately probably aren't super effective as anti-cheat measures. That's the sad thing about basically this entire list. It's all fun to read about. We love hearing cheaters getting their just desserts, right? But
it sucks to play against, especially when you're playing like online ranked games and it actually matters your performance and someone just flies around in Valorant and ding, 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 like headshot after headshot after headshot.
Actual methods to stem the tide of cheats, these are not all that effective. Wanted to get that out there because that's the reality of the situation. It sounds like they're mopping up the Call of Duty games. They're squeaky clean now because they're using these crazy punishments against these cheaters. It's not quite like that. I mean, if you've played Call of Duty game for long enough, you've encountered a cheater. You probably know it's still an issue, regardless of any of this. But it's still fun.
At least they're doing something
to talk
right
about these things. So let's talk about more of these cheaters' funny fails. So Call of Duty's big, highly publicized Ricochet anti-cheat is kind of a flop, but some of the ways it dealt with
it just
cheaters
doesn't
were
work?
pretty great. One of the more devious measures was a thing called cloaking, where if the program detected a player cheating, it would trigger negative effects like make it so the cheater couldn't see or hear bullets coming at him. They can't hear footsteps at all, and ultimately it makes it so opposing players become completely invisible. Everyone else can see the cheater, though, so they're pretty much screwed. Running around to get an empty map in total silence, getting shot by invisible bullets from invisible players.
This is kind of like shadow banning someone. On YouTube, you don't ban someone from a YouTube chat. You hide them so they can still type. Just no one will ever see them ever again. So they don't know that they're banned. No one tells them that they're banned. You just don't see their messages. So it's kind of like shadow banning someone from Call of Duty, where you'll run around a map, you'll never see anyone, you'll get shot in the back, and you'll get frustrated, and you'll get mad, and you'll get so upset. I think the funniest thing would be to have someone go onto Twitter and be like, guys, everyone in COD is invisible now. What the heck is this glitch? And then they get exposed for being a cheater.
Not fun. But also the cheating player gets a ban, after a little bit of torture. It's nice.
Okay, you give a little bit of torture, and then you ban. I respect that. I can stand by that.
To give everybody kind of an opportunity to get their slice, And number 17,
get their punches in.
GTA Online cheaters getting an exploding car. A classic tale from GTA Online. Back in 2015, there was a car players could get for upgrading to the next-gen version of the game called the Duke of Death. It was a tank of a vehicle, had some of the best durability in the game, but it was meant to be used in single-player, not in multiplayer. Was too effective for multiplayer. At least that's what Rockstar thought back then. Now, with
so
the
it
game
explodes if you use it in multiplayer?
Hover cars and stuff, they probably wouldn't care. But back in 2015, the devs saw players using exploits to bring this car to the online version of the game, and they were using it to gain what many saw as an unfair advantage. So, Rockstar decided to deal with it in their own unique way.
Okay, they're using exploits, but they're not necessarily using cheats, so it's an exploit that exists within the game. That feels like you should just patch the exploit, right?
Instead of just
obviously remove the car.
Duke of Death despawns in multiplayer or something simple like that, they turned every single one of the vehicles into a bomb on wheels. The second anyone steps in these newly patched Dukes, they go up in a massive fireball, instantly killing whoever got in the car. Now that's a real Duke of Death, am I right? It kills.
That is pretty entertaining, though.
When you get into the car kills you. It's like the Cybertruck before they put those bolts in the pedals or whatever.
I was gonna say they didn't put the Cybertruck into GTA. What the hell am I playing?
Number 16 is Titanfall's all cheaters lobby. Back in 2014, Respawn, the developers of Titanfall, knew that anti-cheat measures had a problem. If you immediately banned cheaters from a game, you know what they did? They'd make a new account and jump back into the game, and they'd probably keep on cheating. The problem was that cheaters knew they were caught, and once they were banned, nothing was keeping them from just jumping back in with the rest of the player base and continuing to cheat. So they came up with a plan. Rather than ban cheaters outright, at least at first, they would instead send cheaters to a proverbial island of misfit toys, a separate lobby designed just for cheaters. If they're going to ruin other players...
What happens if I can't? Bad. Great news. You get to keep playing Titanfall. Less great news. You only get to play with other cheaters. You can play with other banned players in something that resembles the Wimbledon of aimbot contests. Wait, that's sick.
Get a taste of their own medicine. Sort of like quarantine, only instead of Ebola or something, they've got...
Yeah, you put them in their own little ball, let them have their fun, let them go around and cheat against each other, and then the regular players can do their thing.
Got like a terminal case of cheater's disease. I don't know. You kind of have to make a decision to cheat. It's not quite like a disease, but whatever. It was a good idea, and a lot of other games started doing it, like Max Payne 3 and even Modern Warfare 2.
Oh, come on. Who's cheating at Max Payne 3? Let's be real
With the
now.
added bonus that the cheaters lobby has a particularly high ping, so you weren't just stuck playing with a bunch of dirty...
Wait, Modern Warfare 2 started doing this afterwards? That's weird, because Modern Warfare 2 came out in 2009, and Titanfall came out in 2014. So, assuming that it gets implemented around mid-2014 or late 2014, maybe 2015, and then implementing that same feature into a 6-year-old game at that point, I don't know, why not do it in the more modern ones?
Cheaters. The game was also super laggy. The last one was particularly...
I assume they don't mean the modern Modern Warfare 2, they mean the one that's showing on screen, right? The old Modern Warfare 2.
Clever, because they did the smart thing and didn't actually advertise it. Players just became aware of it because it's Call of Duty and there are a lot of cheaters. Ultimately, once cheaters get wise to the scheme, they just do the same thing and make a new account to continue cheating, but it was a brilliant idea while it lasted.
I just don't understand why you would put in the effort in the time, because making an account is just an arduous process. You have to put in your email address. Sometimes you have to make a new email address if you already had one that's assigned to an account, and then you have to put your password in. You have to remember the password. You have to make a new username. You have to remember your new username. You have to sign into the account, and you download it and you open the game again. Why do all of this? Just so you can get like 1 or 2 cheated games in. It's not even fun. Are you even having a good time at that point?
15 EVE online bots being publicly executed. One of those stories where the actual method isn't all that effective for cheaters, but damn if it's not satisfying. So we've been talking a little bit more about EVE.
EVE Online is like the most ridiculous spreadsheet game I've ever seen in my life. Although people do love it and it has the biggest wars that actually result in like the biggest loss of real life money that I've ever seen. I'll see news articles that's like EVE Online skirmish results in $1 million of product loss. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Real life money.
Online lately, as we've decided that longer videos are on the table. And the reason why is with a little bit more time, we can explain what the hell we're talking about. And EVE Online kind of requires that. So here, EVE Online has these GMs, like in most MMOs, developer employees who support the game, do admin work, deal with player issues, and enforce the rules. Basically the same as World of Warcraft, except the metagame of EVE is, well, let's say, complicated and dynamic on a level that most other games online do not even approach.
Potentially even more complicated than a real life politics, which I've seen videos trying to explain EVE Online. I saw a 6-hour-long video about how this EVE Online faction came to power and then went to wars and all this. Like, I still didn't really understand it.
It has a real economy, and as I've said elsewhere, I don't mean a microtransaction economy. I don't mean there's shops. I mean there's a player economy. It is a real money economy, and it has all of the trappings and problems of a real economy because it's a real economy. The GMs, it's a thankless job most of the time, but in 2018 they got to have a little fun. They got to publicly execute some botters. If you don't know, a botter...
What were they, guillotine? What did they use? Did they use the firing squad?
Somebody who uses automated scripts to play the game for them. Usually it's to do something basic like gather
Oh, so we're turning it into a mobile game, are we?
resources or collect money. They're kind of a nuisance at the best of times. These players make the games look crappy, they block out legitimate players, and they make the game worse for everybody else. Normally they're removed from the game in a less than spectacular fashion. They just get all their stuff confiscated and the account gets banned. But during GM week, they did something a little different. Instead of just making the offending ships disappear, the GMs teleported them into neutral space and let any player in attendance fire away. They weren't just any old ships either. These were massive carriers that normally weren't allowed in neutral space.
Oh, they were probably so mad. Wait, they streamed this? Oh my god, if they streamed this, that is fantastic.
Players blew up one, then another, etc. It was a bloodbath, and millions in botter cash just went up in smoke. And
oh, this is brilliant. Yes, fantastic. Those massive ships.
Obviously, these public displays.
The scale of these games is really impressive.
Mostly for the GM team to make them feel like they're doing something, and maybe give them a little satisfaction and reward for what they're doing. It doesn't do anything more than they would normally do. But
as GM week grew to a close, the players were once again invited back to Uli. Oh, did they do it again? Several bot-owned carriers and super carriers have been sacrificed to the mob. Oh my days. 700 players opened fire, closing out GM week with enormous bang. That's just fun, though. That's a good, nice event to bring everyone together. You know, the Pokemon community might have shiny hunting events where we try to find every single shiny in a generation within 24 hours. The EVE Online has public executions of their worst players.
But it provides a bit of a spectacle and feels good to take out some dirty botters. At number 14, invisible NPCs catching cheaters in Hypixel. A niche one, hardly one of the best solutions for catching cheating, but it's one of the most interesting. On the
still an entertaining one.
Minecraft server Hypixel, they employ a unique form of anti-cheat called Watchdog. What makes it so unusual is how it operates, rather than just being some
I assume it's not like a dog that watches you if you cheat and then explodes you and kills you. I assume it's not
kind
that.
of server-side detection tool or something that logs your inputs and checks programs.
Right, yes, of course.
Or whatever. It actively tries to find you in the game with invisible NPCs. On top of the usual anti-cheat measures, when somebody reports another player for cheating, it sends a report to the Watchdog, which will send entities into the queue of the suspected player. These are invisible characters who will circle the possible cheater and do a bunch of different things. Some stand still, some run in circles, others go prone. From here, the game collects data depending on how the player interacts with them. If they all just die at once, that player is using a kill aura.
If one hits the Watchdog entity 10 to 15 times continuously, it will assume they are using the kill aura, aim assist, or auto-clicker modules, and it will immediately ban the player. Oh.
You seem to look right at them and kill them in seconds, so using auto-aim. The basic idea is that the cheater needs to hit the entity around 10 to 15 times continuously to make absolutely sure they're actually cheating. It's kind of a rudimentary method for catching cheaters, but I love the idea of these invisible NPCs running around a cheater, potentially ruining their game by forcing their auto-aim all over the place.
Oh, and they're invisible NPCs. I see. So if you're not cheating, in theory, you'll never see this NPC, and then they'll just go in their merry way. But if you're in the vicinity of a cheater that is, for example, using kill aura, I assume that means if you have someone near you, you kill them around you. Having the invisible NPC circle them and potentially getting hits will confirm that they are actually cheating. I guess you could hit this NPC by accident with like an arrow or something, but 10 to 15 times, make sure that you won't do it. You won't ban people by accident. That's not bad.
It's an odd form of anti-cheat that apparently isn't actually that good, but it's fascinating and
fun. I feel like it's a bit rudimentary,
and number 13,
but it's okay.
Call of Duty tricks cheaters with fake enemies. In 2023, Call of Duty did the opposite. Instead of invisible enemies, they populated the game with fake enemies. This is another one of their
This is why I said they should do it in the first one. They should populate it with fake enemies that only the cheater can see. If you shoot them, you know they're cheating.
Schemes with Ricochet. If invisible players don't work, why not confuse the cheaters with tons of clones that only they can see? They appear in multiplayer matches, but the only people who can see them are the cheaters. So they're used to detect cheating players because only the cheaters are consistently shooting them. And to make their games miserable, they flood the map with hallucinations that exist only to distract them from real players. It's a mechanic that keeps cheaters locked down without negatively impacting the game for legitimate players too much. That's a problem with Ricochet that people have dealt with in the past. And
also, it means that if you are a normal player that is watching this cheater just go hog wild and attack hallucinations, you might just think they're on a bad trip.
One of the many attempts for their want to curtail cheating, they made it so suspected hackers had their movements slowed or entirely frozen. It's a brutal and fitting punishment, but seeing a bunch of slow-motion players made people think the game was laggy, so they moved on from this solution. It's a tough part with these...
They saw that many slow-motion players? Okay, that definitely becomes an issue. If you've seen a lot of slow-motion players, That is a problem. But what's not a problem is using code Patterrz at Gamer Subs to get delicious beverages, caffeine and caffeine free. You can even get your shaker cups. Believe me, you can get a waifu shaker cup, or you can get just a normal like blue and orange one if you want one of those, or you can get sexy enemy waifu shaker cup, depending on what you want. So you can also get freaking gamer tea. You can get gamer tea. It's right there. It's gamer tea. Using Gamer Subs. Use code Patterrz. Links in the description.
Anti-cheat traps. You want to ruin the day of the cheaters, but not the actual people who are having fun with the game, like legitimate fun, not hurting anybody. Well, other than with their virtual guns and stuff. At least
demon dogs have been deployed.
Enemies trap.
Hang about. What's going on here?
They're still running around the map. They're just shooting at ghosts rather than real players. And number 12, Pokemon Go cheaters getting the rarest Mons Shadow Bond. Shadow Band. Sound real fancy there. I was Shadow Bond in Pokemon. No, back in 2017, during the height of the Pokemon Go mania, many players were using things like mappers, which would just tell them where certain Pokemon were, rather than forcing people to wander around trying to find the Pokemon they wanted. You know, the game. That, along with the more invasive cheats like GPS spoofing, were kind of just accepted parts of the game for a while. Pokemon Go developer Niantic didn't want people using this stuff, but how they went about dealing with it was pretty sneaky. Rather than just ban players outright, they'd put shadow bans on players that would make it so only the most common Pokemon would show up for them, and they'd never
they'd never have fun again.
See the rare mons that they were supposed to appear.
What if their favorite Pokemon's Pidgey or Terra? What if the cheater's like, yes, finally, a land with only my favorites. I've been waiting for this.
Given hotspot. Unlike Twitter, where, at least for a while, it's harder to detect the shadow ban, Pokemon Go, if you have a friend nearby, it's pretty obvious. One player would see a bunch of unique Pokemon on the screen. Well, the other guy got, like, rats or something. Only most basic ones would show up all the time. Niantic eventually...
But again, I feel like some people just like rats a lot. I'm just saying.
This is exactly what they were doing. They were targeting Pokemon Go cheaters by making it harder for them to actually catch anything. Unlike with most online games, many of these cheaters were relatively harmless.
Rat bastard, whose footage is this? I'm sorry, what's the top right? What's happening there?
Made it so that people didn't have to waste hours of the day hunting down elusive monsters. But Niantic
okay,
viewed this stuff as cheating, and many players, even ones who seemingly don't do anything at all, were hit with these shadow bans. And number 11, Fall Guy cheaters sent to Cheaters Island, a story from 2020 from the early days of Fall Guys. You'd think a game as non-competitive as this, where you really kind of...
How do you even cheat in Fall Guys? Do you just fly over the map? What's the point? What's the point in any of this? This isn't fun. You're not playing the game. You're not interacting with the game. You're just rooting for everyone else. God, where's the life for the people that do this? They can't be happy. A happy, fulfilled person does not cheat in Fall Guys. I'm sorry, they just don't. You just don't do that. You don't do that if you have a healthy, loving relationship with your friends and family. You don't cheat in Fall Guys. If you enjoy what you do, if you have a good day-to-day life, you're not cheating in Fall Guys.
Cheating against yourself. Yes, there are other people trying to get better times than you, but focusing on them is not the best idea in that game. But you'd think people wouldn't bother cheating in it. But if you have a multiplayer game, people will cheat no matter how pointless it is. So they're going to ruin other people's games, and they might as well do it together, so they created a Cheaters Island, a queue dedicated entirely to cheaters. They would all be stuck together, making each other miserable instead of everyone else. According to the Fall Guys Twitter, their stated goal was a noble one. They hoped that if cheaters got stuck playing together, they would realize that cheating killed the fun. Unfortunately, cheaters don't care. Like, they either have zero self-awareness or they have self-awareness and push right through it. So the plan...
What a waste of time this is, though. Why?
Kept on cheating, but it was cute that they tried. Eventually, cheaters started to get wise, and that's when Fall Guys pulled the plug on Cheaters Island. Just easier to ban them. And number 10, Valkyrie Profile. I
guess so, but this is going to come back.
Your system save. Back in the PlayStation 2 era, most games did not care if you cheated. Many games still had built-in cheat codes, and if you wanted to use game memory altering discs like Game Shark, most games didn't care. The worst that could happen is you break the game because you messed with certain memory values or something like that. But there was at least one game that really didn't like you cheating.
I've never heard of this before in my life.
RPG called...
I swear, there's 7 million JRPGs that I've never heard of that are just incredibly popular. And when you talk about them, people are like, oh yeah, of course I know. Valdea's Revengeance 5, The Return of Valdean's Daughter's Son. Like, of course I know. It's like one of the greatest games of all time. What do you mean? I'm like, what? When did the series start? Why is there 20 different games in the series? How does it happen?
Valkyrie Profile 2. It had some basic behind-the-scenes sanity checks where it would detect if the player had, for example, way too many items in their inventory, like above the possible inventory limit, or they had more experience points than what's possible for a player to get. Once these checks get triggered, the game knows you've been cheating, and that's when it shows absolutely no mercy. It's not immediately obvious, but the game starts to become unstable, it crashes in certain spots, and eventually your save file becomes completely unplayable. What makes GameGuard, the anti-cheat
But it's a single-player game. I mean, who cares?
Games, is that it only becomes noticeable deep into the game, way past the point where starting over is convenient. What makes it so devious is it doesn't just affect one save. It looks for any potential saves where you cheated and infects those as well, and it doesn't stop there. Once the infection is unleashed, it's likely to spread to your clean saves as well. There's no way to really know exactly what it's going to do or when the game will start crashing.
I feel like this shouldn't be a thing. I'm going to be honest. I feel like if you want to cheat in a single-player game, that's totally fine. It's a single-player game. You're not harming anyone else. That's okay. The reason why cheating is bad is because you're ruining the experience for other people. But you can't ruin the experience for other people if there's no other people. It's just basic mathematics.
So the only option is to delete all your save files, not just the ones where you cheated, all of them, and start over from scratch.
I feel like people just aren't going to do that.
Took cheaters' guns away. Call of Duty's war against cheaters is never ending. It forces them to come up with more and more creative and outlandish ways to make life worse for the players who try to give themselves an unfair advantage. It's just one more way they try to do it here. One of the tricky issues to deal with when it comes to cheating is the use of hardware devices for mice and controllers, because they're external devices that affect inputs rather than anything the game can do anywhere. Detecting and dealing with them is pretty tricky. The Ricochet guys think they have found a way to detect them, and they came up with a creative way to punish players who abuse these devices by disarming them. It literally takes their guns away, so they can't do anything but run around and die.
Oh, so they become a pacifist, essentially.
Lets everyone know they've got a cheater among them, and that...
I guess mouse and keyboard does give you an inherent advantage when it comes to games like that. There are peripherals that are supposed to be... I don't know. Are there official PlayStation peripherals that are mouse and keyboard, or are they all third party? Because if you're using an official peripheral, then I feel like you shouldn't get your stuff taken away from you, even though using a mouse and keyboard does potentially make you better than using a controller. But, you know, with a mouse and keyboard, you shouldn't get aim assist. Although, yeah, I didn't think about that. Actually, if you use a mouse and keyboard in a PlayStation game, it would probably still give you aim assist, which would make you way too good.
Their open season, all while effectively neutering their ability to cheat while the ban request goes through. It's not the most creative way to stop cheaters, but it's pretty blunt. Oh, you want to cheat? No more guns. And number 8, Bohemia Interactive used a Russian snitch to contact cheat vendors. Most of the time, game makers don't lay down traps for their cheat makers. They just figure out who they are and sue them. But sometimes even finding them is not so easy. A lot of cheat developers come from countries where they're essentially untouchable, so the only recourse for game developers is to gain access to the cheat programs so they can eventually create more effective ways to counter them. So that's what Bohemia did. They uncovered certain cheat programs made for their games. They went above and beyond to do it. A lot of these cheat makers are careful, so they don't just give out their software to anybody. You have to do things like have a Russian citizen ID, they talk to you on a Skype call, and you have...
It's amazing how much money you can make from selling cheats. Many cheat sellers in Russia and other regions make their living by selling game exploits. Big guys sell cheats for major games on web portals and make big bucks. Cheats can cost anywhere from $1 to $500. And you have to think, when it comes to foreign countries, selling something for American USD is probably going to be a lot more valuable in certain countries compared to just America, for example, or the UK, where your purchasing power or the purchasing power for $1 is much higher.
You have to have a social media account that's been verified, and then once you pass their rigorous social credit check, then they'll sell you their cheats. Look, I'm an upstanding citizen. Sell me your cheat software. Weird, honestly. It does make it almost impossible for a regular game dev to purchase their cheat software, but these guys went all the way.
Unless you hire a Russian guy to do it for you. Yeah, hire a Russian snitch to provide the call for us. That's so funny.
And they hired a Russian speaker to deal with them on a Skype call. Basically, they were getting a full-blown sting operation going. From there, the developers would come up with better ways to combat hackers, like making fake client-side checks to waste a hacker's time. The more difficult a game is to hack, the more discouraged a hacker can get, and that helps better the overall health of a game.
Seriously, I wouldn't. Come on. There's one thing that listen, I'm a YouTuber. I haven't done an interview for a job. There's absolutely no way that I would sit down and do an interview to get some kind of hack and cheat software that will make you slightly better at what, DayZ? There's no ranked leaderboard in DayZ. There's just an open world that you run around in, maybe shoot some zombies and then shoot other players. Why would you? And it costs so much money too. What is the incentive to even do this? Why is the drive to ruin people's day so strong?
At least when all they're doing is making cheats, which can make the experience of playing the game worse. At number 7 is Pokemon cheaters getting stuck with bad eggs. The Pokemon games have a long and storied history trying to combat cheating, but my favorite thing they've ever done is it's got to be these bad eggs. Introduced in Gen 3, if you do something to give a
I didn't know that bad eggs were intentional. I thought that bad eggs were a side effect to messing with the memory of the game so much that it just doesn't know what to do with the space.
Pokemon an illegal move set or alter their individual values, which, affects their stat growth, you'll often find that instead
Brother, why are you using secret power on a
of having
ghastly?
a Pokemon, you'll have a bad egg instead. These bad eggs are no joke. They function just like regular eggs, so you can't get rid of them, and when they hatch, they crash the game. Cheaters can use more cheats to get rid of the egg, but that can often just make things worse, causing more crashes and make the game even more unstable. After the egg crashes the game, the save file is pretty much done for. The data is corrupted, and if you try to load it, the game just freezes and you have to start over. At this point, your only option is delete the save and start from the beginning.
I've seen so many bad eggs in my days across the verse of playing these games, just because of what we do with randomizers and what we do with using different cheats to make content and things like that. Obviously, not cheating online against other people. I've never done that. I've never even played VGC before. Though, maybe I would get into it if there was some way to link your Pokemon without having to do it in the game. Like, for example, if there was a Pokemon Showdown that was legal and sanctioned and you could use it, maybe I would compete. Maybe that could be kind of fun.
At number 6, Escape from Tarkov just put bounties on their cheaters. Tarkov developers' Battlestate games aren't exactly looked at favorably after their most recent blunder of paywall.
Wait, hold on. Bounties? I'm sorry. What? Bounties? Like real money?
The game's highly requested PvE mode behind a $250 special edition. Gotta take a deep breath.
Yeah, no
before you
thanks,
say
mate.
that. They did a few things to try to earn back player trust by offering a free sort of PvE mode, and they also did this. They implemented a plan that was years in the making. They actually put in a bounty system into their extraction shooter that would reward players for correctly identifying cheaters with in-game currency.
Correctly identifying cheaters, so you can't just spam report on everyone, surely.
Literally just putting a price on cheaters' heads. And it's up to the player base to find them. Could lead to an Orwellian nightmare with friends selling each other out for in-game currency, but at the time...
Hey, I mean, it's I don't know. Is that too far from what the game is about
Time of
anyway?
the announcement, nobody knows exactly how much currency players would get as a reward, and at least at time of writing, it's still too early to say how well any of these plans worked out. I mean, if somebody correctly identifies a cheater is part of the stipulation, so I would assume incorrectly identifying somebody is, not going to be rewarded, but we'll see. Knowing how
I would assume, of course, it's not going to be rewarded. That would be ridiculous if it was rewarded. That wouldn't make any sense.
Going to work as intended, or it's entirely a marketing stunt.
Otherwise, you just spam report on every single player you see. Eventually, you're going to hit the needle within the haystack, and then you're going to get your reward. But surely, just spam report on everyone you see that's not a good way to go about the system.
Maybe a few players will get payouts, but ultimately, this is kind of a bit of a hollow gesture. Maybe I'm wrong, but history isn't on Battlestate Games' side here. At number 5, Warzone cheaters getting their parachute cut. One last Call of Duty example, this time from Warzone. They've taken away cheaters' guns, they've slowed them down, they've made them see mirages or made every other player disappear. They've
now
tried
they're just straight
everything,
up killing them.
and now they're just killing cheaters before they get a chance to act. In Ricochet's latest harebrained scheme to stop cheaters,
Okay, I feel like that is definitely a way to stop cheaters because you genuinely cannot play the game at all at that point.
they've included Splat, an anti-cheat measure where if a player is detected cheating before they jump out
We may randomly and for fun disable their parachute, sending them careening into the ground after they deploy.
of the plane at the start of the game, they just randomly cannot open their parachute. They don't want
Wait, no, hold on. There was something else there. There was something else down there. Hold on, no, we need to go back. There was something else there that we need to read. But what if we catch them after they've deployed? Well, Splat can also be can adjust player velocity, which transforms a bunny hop into a 10,000-foot drop, taking them out instantly. That's pretty funny.
They don't want cheaters to immediately catch on, so that's not all they're doing. Sometimes a cheater will survive the fall, but that doesn't mean their suffering is over. Randomly, the game might change their velocity.
Yeah, there it
when
is.
climbing,
Okay.
and so a basic jump will kill them instantly when they land. It's just one more mitigating tool they've added to the game along with all the others. They're fun to read about, but honestly, seems like a lot of hype. Like, there's tons of cheaters in the game. And
It's just, I'm obviously like it's a gimmick, but still, it's kind of a funny gimmick.
Activision is willing to just permanently ban all these guys, which they aren't, because they know the cheaters are dumb enough to waste their money buying the game again to keep.
Oh, wait, hold on. Whoa. If they think that they're going to buy the game again to cheat again, then in theory, they should ban them, allow them to buy the game again because Activision loves money. They love money. And then you just ban them again if they cheat. Like, sure, if they turned over a new leaf and they decide not to cheat again, fair enough, fair dues, let them play. But if they just buy it again and start cheating again, okay, ban again. See if you buy it again.
Cheating. The problem's never going to get solved. And number 4, RuneScape sent botters to Botany Bay. Like Eve, RuneScape is another game that has its fair share of botters, but in typical RuneScape fashion, they came up with some fanciful solutions for dealing with these pests.
I think it's incredible that RuneScape is still around in this day and age.
Prison island where botting characters are sent. If players are caught using bots 3 times on the same account, they'd be sent here to stand trial. The botter was placed on a pillar, and the bot finder general would angrily denounce them. Any player present could pick up tomatoes from a barrel and throw them at the accused. Just
what is happening here? So you can go to Botany Island to see the court dispense justice?
Once the trial, big scare quotes there, once it was over, which would always end in a guilty verdict, players were given the choice of
Jesus Christ, they've got more of a consistent conviction rate than Japan.
Deciding the botter's fate. They could be crushed, swallowed, or even vaporized in a heavenly light. And after all that, the account would be permanently banned. It's kind of a really funny gimmick. They even gave the botter special dialogue to make them look stupid, but interest in the game eventually just waned and they shut it down in 2018. It's not that botting was wiped out or anything. It's that the novelty of publicly executing these guys will only hold people's interest for so long. Still, A+ idea. They had a good 6-year run, so
what is happening here? Crushed that fool. Bam! I voted Obama.
Fun while it lasted. At number 3, Guild Wars 2 assuming full control. When game security lead Chris Clearly heard about a player named JT Darkside causing chaos using exploits and cheats to ruin other people's fun in Guild Wars 2, he decided to take drastic action. Most of the time, these sorts of reports are resolved with a quick ban, but for whatever reason, they wanted to make an example out of JT Darkside. So rather than just remove him from the game, they did a lot more. First, they directly logged in the
they made him naked.
Character. Then they took all their clothes off and had them jump off a bridge, and then they permanently deleted the character and banned the account. Oh, and they recorded the whole thing for everybody to see, too. They did all this in response to a forum post that showed a video, which was evidence of cheater. The cheater in question was pretty much irrefutable proof, so security decided to provide a little video.
Oh, so they're just using him as an example. Okay, you know what? They should post this to his YouTube channel as well. They should post this to their YouTube channel. Be like, all right, this is what happens. You're going to cheat. You're going to get stripped naked, thrown off a bridge and banned.
Of their own, this time of the cheater's final moments. If only every game dealt with cheaters
the same way, hell,
maybe Guild Wars 2 could deal with all its cheaters in the same way. It's rife with botters, and
deleting a character will permanently destroy any items that will... Oh,
this is hilarious.
There he goes.
At number 2, Wild Quest cheaters faced with The Cleaner. This one goes way back, all the way to the earliest days of World of Warcraft. Certain quests were meant to be played solo, but there were no systems in place to keep players from teaming up or working together for these quests, so instead, Blizzard devised a nasty little trap for players who tried to circumvent the rules.
I mean, is that really circumvented the rules if you just, like, find something like, hey, you want to work together in this?
The game detected anybody.
Surely you should set up better restrictions on the players that don't allow them to do that, right?
The player who started the quest attacking this particular enemy, then the game would spawn The Cleaner, a pitch black, like entirely black demon that would kill everybody nearby and despawn. The thing you're supposed to be fighting also disappears, and the Cleaner is completely invulnerable, so anyone who tries to cheat these quests just dies. There's only 2, one from a hunter quest and one from a priest quest, so the Cleaner didn't show up often, but when he did...
Christ, look at you. Imagine you see that in the distance when you're just trying to enjoy yourself. You're just trying to play some video game and you see this guy pop up.
You know you screwed up. It was eventually removed from the game with the Cataclysm expansion, which even WoW Classic has gotten up to this point. So there's no way to officially see this guy anymore, but it was a funny idea while it lasted. And finally at number 1, Xbox Live changing your name to Cheater McCheat. This one's all the way back from 2009, back when people actually cared about what your gamer score was. Well, I guess they cared more. People still care. I know there's people who still...
Oh yeah, people who used to care a bunch about what your gamer score. People would buy games that were easy to complete just to, like, rack up the numbers on the gamer score. I would never do something so cringe and lame, of course. I would never do that.
Cheat to get platinums and are obsessed with game completion, but it was definitely a bigger deal back then. To combat achievement crackers, Xbox threatened that they wouldn't just reset someone's gamer score if they were found to be cheating to get it. They would also make it impossible for that account to earn any more gamer score, and their account would be branded a cheater with a special symbol. To top it off,
just ban them.
Microsoft gave the offending player a new name, Cheater McCheat.
Cheater McCheat. I'm a dirty cheater. United States.
Which couldn't be changed. Because the cheater was basically just caught trying to artificially inflate their gamer score, they can still use online services and play online games, but that meaningless number they're so obsessed over is reset back to 0 and they'll never be able to increase their gamer score again. They can also just start a new account, but they're still starting from scratch, even with cheating, getting a lot of
God, this is a really old Xbox dashboard. I think this is the OG Xbox dashboard, actually. I remember going through all the different changes in Xbox Live as we would play through like 2009 to 2010, 2011. God, it really takes me back, you know?
A huge gamer score is a massive undertaking. Hopefully they learn their lesson from the experience, but if my experience with cheaters has taught me anything, they don't. Ever. There's just certain people who don't learn or develop, and it just so happens most people who cheat in video games are that kind.
I feel like getting gamer score just doesn't really matter as much anymore. Although, to be fair, I don't really have an Xbox, so I'm more of a PC player now, so maybe I've just changed. Maybe I'm jaded.
Person. And that's all for today. Leave us.
That's all for today. I love seeing cheaters get banned. It's fantastic. It's very entertaining and very cool. If you would like to see more from GamerRanks, their link is always will be in the description. You can go and subscribe to them. I would highly recommend it. They've got a ton of cool stuff to tell you about all new games coming out and some more interesting videos like that. And if you want to see more of my dumb face, you can subscribe here as well.